Welcome to another episode of National Divorce Talk Raw. Well, wow, did we call it right? We did an analysis yesterday showing that when Marjorie Taylor Greene called for secession, that she was not committing any crime at all. She was not being seditious. She was not being treasonous. She was not committing rebellion or insurrection. And we went through that and pointed all that out. Well, guess what happened today? Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we pointed out, Marjorie Taylor Greene's never said when she's calling for a national divorce that she means violent national divorce. She means not using a vote, not going through Congress, ignoring the federal government, and specifically using guns. And we pointed out how she never said anything like that, nor is there any evidence that she said anything like that at all. I want to show you something real quick. Well, guess what happened the other day? Marjorie Taylor Greene issued this tweet. National divorce is not civil war, but Biden and neocons are leading us in World War III while forcing ESG and gender confusion on our kids. People are absolutely fed up and disgusted with the left-wing insanity and disaster against American last policies. National divorce is not civil war. So Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted this out after she said the tweet about how she was calling for national divorce. Then she pointed out national divorce is not civil war, pointing out that that's not what she thought. That's literally what we predicted yesterday when nobody else would. So when for us, we were the only liberals, I think, and the only people anywhere talking about how she didn't say violence. She didn't say constitution. You are prosecuting thoughts, and there is no basis in American law for prosecuting thoughts. You have no basis to insert those thoughts into her. She just said national divorce. And when you look at her previous conversations on national divorce and the other people who talk about national divorce, they're talking about peaceful separation in Texas versus White. So we pointed that out. People are saying Marjorie Taylor Greene committed treason, sedition, all this horrible stuff. We went through the law. We pointed out nothing of what she said in that tweet is qualifying as violating those laws at all in any capacity. And we said that the reason is that you can't assume that you know what she's thinking, that when she says national divorce, she means violence. And then after we made that statement, Marjorie issues a tweet and goes, yeah, by the way, I don't mean civil war. Exactly what we predicted after we made the prediction. Well, the misinformation doesn't end there. There's so much more misinformation coming, but here's the point you need to go and pay attention to. There was a guy called the Mahatma Gandhi. He was an Indian man who understood the English legal system. He studied as a barrister before moving back to India, where he dressed as a poor Indian, but he was anything but. He was rich and he was well educated. And he taught the Indians this: at first, they ignore you. Then they laugh at you. And then they fight you, and then you win. When they start to fight you, the very next step is that you win. Well, the system is fighting Marjorie Taylor Greene. We're going to show you that right now. They tried laughing at her. That didn't work. Then they moved to fighting, which means the very next step is we win. And that's the point of today's show. Everybody's lying about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Professors, law school professors, lawyers, politicians, Republican officials, high-ranking people, the media, everybody's lying about Marjorie Taylor Greene. In no way did anything that she do violate the law or the Constitution or anything. We covered that yesterday in the video. But nobody wants to hear that. Well, I'm going to show you how our analysis is correct and how all this means is that, folks, this is the best time ever for secessionists because secession's coming. When the system fights this hard to trash someone, it's because the deep state is worried that this message will get out. We'll show you that all in just a second. Check out the video from yesterday. It's blowing up and pissing off a lot of people. I suggest you look at it. It has a picture of Marjorie Taylor Greene and myself, and where I say I'm a liberal, but everything she's saying correct. And then the cover for today's video is Liz Cheney versus Marjorie Taylor Greene. Liz Cheney wrong. Greene is right. Okay, well, let's get right into it. Let me show you the videos, and we'll just go from there. So, first thing we want to do is do a present screen. I'm going to show you the evidence, and then we'll show how everybody's getting it wrong. And I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic. There's just a lot of misinformation. Sorry. So the first one we're going to go to is the young, nope. Oops. First one we're going to go to is the Young Turks. There we go. Let me make sure that's showing. Yep. Okay. First one we're going to is the Young Turks. I can actually figure this out. Give me a second. Sorry. And here we go.
Congresswoman Marjorie Greene resurrected her calls for a national divorce this week, arguing that Republican and Democratic states, red states and blue states, need a much-needed separation. She argues the federal government needs to shrink, but not enough to stop regulating the bodies of women and transgender individuals. But nonetheless, let's give you her latest tweet where she says, "We need a national divorce. We need to separate by red states and blue states and shrink the federal government. Everyone I talk to says this.
I don't doubt it.
From the sick and disgusting woke culture issues shoved down our throats to the Democrats' traitorous America Last policies, we are done." Now, I mean, if you poll Americans on most substantive issues, there's actually a lot of agreement within the American electorate, regardless of which political party they affiliate with. But it's lawmakers like Marjorie Greene who have an interest in dividing the country, who have an interest in hyper-focusing on culture war issues, which many are manufactured by the right wing in order to divide and conquer. It's their bread and butter. It's what they do.
Okay, so let's go over how that's completely wrong. So I like Anna Kasparian. I think she's, I like her passion, very Californian, and I love when she challenges racists, and that's awesome. But what Anna Kasparian is saying there is that in the Young Turks is that Marjorie Taylor Greene's creating all this division in America because that's what she does. So Joe Biden didn't give the ultra MAGA speech with 2 Marines behind him and a blood red backdrop that looked like he was calling for an invasion of Trump people. Joe Biden did not say on the campaign trail when asked, "What are you going to do to Trump supporters? I probably can't reach out to them all." Joe Biden did not give a speech where he said ultra MAGA people are now the top national security threat. And then he had to walk it back going, well, I didn't mean anybody that walked for Trump. So Joe Biden absolutely said, I can't reach out to the Trumpers. He did a speech making them a national security threat. He basically called 74 million Americans a threat to democracy and then tried to walk it back. Hillary Clinton hated on Donald Trump. Donald Trump caused a lot of division. So what she's saying is America hasn't been divided over the last 10 to 15 years. This is Marjorie pushing it. In no way do liberals push the culture war and are making it worse. That is total garbage. America has already been coming apart for the last 10 to 15 years, period. Now the view's take is, well, look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's calling for secession. She's trying to rip us apart because otherwise we agree as Americans and come together. No, we don't. Congress has been stalled more times under the last 3 presidents than ever before. We've had more inability to pass a budget than ever before in history, looking at the last 3 presidencies. They have less bills passed than ever before. I think Obama was the least productive Congress ever, and it's basically dropped. So if you look at it historically, we have the most polarized electorate. We have the most people in solid blue or red states. We have the most people in landslide counties, which is a county that votes strictly red or strictly blue in the last 25 years. Those are all hard facts. We have President Biden, who slammed all the Republicans. We have Donald Trump, who polarized all the liberals. All of that happened before Marjorie Taylor Greene, but none of that happens, and it's really just her tearing the country apart. What a load of garbage. I mean, I'm a liberal, but that is just alternate universe theory and has no applicability to reality. Okay, let's go. The hits keep going. So here's the next one we'll show you. Just a second. Okay, 1 second. And here's the next clip we're going to show. Sorry, a lot of screens up today.
Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene banging the Civil War drums on social media. Yesterday she tweeted, quote, "We need a national divorce. We need to separate by red states and blue states and shrink the federal government." A little later she tweeted that, quote, "A national divorce is not the same as a civil war." But truthfully, isn't that how the Civil War started, with states seceding from the Union? I believe that's how the Civil War started. And does she know that she's living in a quasi-blue state? Because Georgia voted for Biden and 2 Democratic senators.
Yes. Yeah.
So what is she talking
Well, even if this plan of hers gets hatched, the blue states like New York, we get stuck with her.
So here's the problem with this. Sunny Hostin right there is a lawyer. And what Joy Reid just said there is completely incorrect. And the lawyer couldn't even provide correct information. In fact, none of them contradict what Joy Reid just said. So Joy Reid listed a complete garbage piece of history that is not true and not reflective of accurate history at all. Let me walk you through that. So Joy Reid's saying, hey, didn't the Civil War start with talk of national divorce? No. The Civil War started because the South left the Congress, said we don't want to have any dealings with the federal government, nor will we approach the federal government for a vote or to negotiate this, and then we're going to start shooting at federal installations. President Abraham Lincoln himself said in his inaugural address, Lincoln said in his inaugural address, and it's backed up by Salmon Chase, who he appointed as Supreme Court Justice when Chase ruled in Texas versus White and said you can't secede through consent of the states. Abraham Lincoln said in his inaugural address, if the South had approached Congress and asked for a vote, I might have to be allowed to let them go. It's in his inaugural address. So national divorce is saying, let's have a discussion about a vote to peacefully separate. I am the liberal in all of America who has more contact with conservatives across America who are involved in national divorce than anyone out there, period. There is no liberal who has more contacts to conservatives who talk about national divorce than myself. And they all mean a vote and peaceful separation, an agreed upon separation, a divorce where everybody agrees. None of them are talking about violent secession, and a lot of them talk about Texas versus White. If you see any article about Texas secession, it always talks about Texas versus White. If you see anything from us in Cal Exit, we always talk about Texas versus White, etc. So Joy Reid saying the Civil War happened because people talked about national divorce, and that led to violence. No, the South said we don't want to approach the federal government. We don't want to have a vote. We are quitting the federal government and we are attacking. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a sitting member of Congress, is saying, let's use the congressional manner. Let's have a vote. Let's have a negotiation, which is what Lincoln said was the only way to do this. And she is specifically pointing out, and Joy Reid even had to admit, I'm not talking about Civil War. But then Joy Reid had to say, well, of course she means Civil War. Yeah, she says she doesn't mean Civil War, but don't we really know she means Civil War? So you say, I don't mean Civil War. What they take is you mean Civil War. Just because you said the opposite doesn't, we can ascribe thoughts to you, which are the opposite of what you're saying. And then we can have revisionist history about the actual Civil War. That's not how the Civil War happened. If Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying, I want to leave Congress, I think Republicans should leave Congress. In no way should Republicans pursue having a vote or a negotiated settlement, then that would be like the Civil War. She's saying nothing like that at all. So again, a lot of misinformation. And Sunny Hostin is a lawyer and couldn't even correct her and get that right. Wow. Doesn't stop there. Let's go over more misinformation. And we're going to get to the Georgia elections too. Don't worry. I've seen that. And I think there's something that people are forgetting, which proves the point even more about everything we're talking about. Okay, so let's go do. Liz Cheney blasts Marjorie Taylor Greene for a national divorce between liberal and conservative states. You swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution, Cheney said. Secession is unconstitutional. No member of Congress should advocate secession, Marjorie. Liz Cheney is dead wrong. So, secession is not unconstitutional. The Constitution says nothing about secession. Period. It's not in there. The Constitution says that for legal disputes, they go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has looked at secession one time in Texas versus White, and it says you can secede with consent of the states. And people who point to the Civil War are ignorant because the Supreme Court case came after the Civil War, which makes it legal precedent based upon the way the entire American legal system works. Okay? You don't take older cases and go, that's the one I'm looking at. You take the most current recent case. Stare decisis, it's the way the entire thing works. So Liz Cheney's going around saying, what you said is unconstitutional. The Constitution does not ban secession. It doesn't necessarily allow secession. It also doesn't say you can't have discussions. In no way is she arguing for not using the Constitution, not using Congress, and going violent. We just showed you the tweet where she said, I don't mean violence. So Liz Cheney is directly misinforming people. Talking about secession is not unconstitutional. Members of Congress can advocate secession. They have free speech rights as long as they don't say, I want to aid or abet an enemy force. I want to declare war. We should work with somebody committing war. I mean violence. I don't mean votes. I don't mean using Congress. I don't mean using the federal system. She said nothing like that at all. And what's worse is this is being spread everywhere. So let me show you. So there's Marjorie Taylor Greene explaining this, and I'll show you this. So Cheney fires back. Cheney fires back. Cheney fires back. Ozarks first, CNY homepage, Who 13. Cheney files back, Inform New York City, KDVR, Fox 2, WNS TV, Siouxland Proud, WTAJ, KTSM. So Cheney fires back and says, what you're doing is secession and unconstitutional, was literally covered everywhere in the news. And it is completely incorrect and not based upon the law. So nothing that she did is unconstitutional. We did the show yesterday. So Cheney is misinforming people, and the entire American media system is pushing that as far as they can. I just showed you the proof. Okay, we're not done. The ignorance gets even further. Okay, let me show you a couple more. Washington, don't pretend Greene's national divorce makes any sense. So they had to slam it. Then here's the Independent. Marjorie Taylor Greene slammed for pushing red state secession. Georgia Republican claims everyone wants national split. And then they talk about how there's all these conservatives who say, I disagree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So she slammed for even suggesting this by fellow conservatives, is what the UK magazine is saying. She slammed by fellow conservatives is what domestic news is saying. See the pattern? Cheney fires back. The Hill, this is a political magazine, for national divorce. And what I found is truly sad was the Hill magazine is an informed magazine, right? They have the ability to get facts correct and look things up. They don't point out that Cheney has it wrong at all. So the Hill is even going along with, yeah, I guess Cheney's right that it's unconstitutional. Oh, and here we go. Civil war trends after Marjorie Taylor Greene tweet asks for national divorce. So this is pushing the thing. When Marjorie Taylor Greene says national divorce, what she really means is civil war. See, civil war's tweeting. And then we just saw in the view where Joy Reid goes, okay, she says specifically she doesn't mean civil war, but come on, she means civil war. So you can see how they're pushing the angle. Marjorie Taylor Greene is going out of her way to say, I don't mean civil war. And if you look at the other stuff she's talking about a consent, a vote using the Congress. And they have to push it to, yeah, even though she said that, she doesn't mean that. And we know what she really thinks, even though she never said that. And what she means is civil war. Even though she's never said that, and even though she said the opposite, we know better. That this is what's going on. Wrong and honestly evil. Even Republicans are trashing MTG. Republicans are trashing her. Republicans are trashing her. Even Republicans are trashing her. And Salon's a heavy liberal organization. And they're saying, oh, look, even the Republicans are trashing her. So there you go. Marjorie Taylor Greene's Civil War. Congressman is too influential with the GOP and 2 representatives used for her calls of secession to be dismissed. So even the Atlantic saying she's pursuing civil war. See, there's her civil war, even though she said, I'm not pursuing civil war and I mean peaceful national divorce. Well, actually what she means is civil war. So there's the angle again. Now I like this one because here's Morning Joe. And remember the Gandhi quote. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they attack. So Morning Joe was trying to attack. This is so laughable because blue states, as we know, are all the donor states. Host Joe Scarborough said on Morning Joe. So that's the institution, the deep state, laughing at Marjorie Taylor Greene. They tried doing that on Monday morning after she made the tweet. So she made the tweet, and then that morning they tried saying, we're going to laugh at you. Okay. And this is by The Wrap, which is a very liberal organization. Talking to Morning Joe said, we're going to laugh at you. That was the morning of. Then they switched to, oh my God, this is serious. It's unconstitutional. This won't work. Republicans slamming against you. Republicans slamming against you. You mean civil war. Republicans slamming against you. You mean civil war. So this is what they did the first day, and then they did this the next day. Why? Because the laughing angle didn't work. Like we talked about with Gandhi. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. So they tried laughing the morning of, didn't work. The very next day, it's solid attack. And what I want to point out to you is the amount of attack, vicious attack and coordinated. Liz Cheney attacking her was all over the newspaper. This Utah governor attacking her was all over the governor. The deep state's trying to push the narrative that conservatives don't actually want this, when actually we know from polling that about half of the Republican Party is open to this, and over half of the Republican Party in the South is open to this, where she's from. But you won't hear those statistics right now. They're not bringing up those statistics that came out 6 months ago, a year ago. They're not mentioning that right now. They're just saying, look at all these Republicans say she's crazy for saying this. Okay, a little bit more. We have to document this because no one else will. There's Liz Cheney. You can't advocate secession. It's unconstitutional. That's a lie. Now, here's our CalExit LLC homepage where we've been covering a lot of this. Here you go. Why not just secede like you wanted to? The two-party system explained for dummies. Texas nationalist movement. So check us out here. We do a lot of coverage here. And this is where we'll be posting videos and talking about this some more. Let me see if that's it. So we've shown you how there's a lot of misinformation from lawyers, from professors, from politicians. Hold on, let me show you. I think I'm missing something. One second. Yeah, here we go. Okay, here we go. Really sad, the level of misinformation. This is the Salon expert. Legal experts also, here we go. Wrong and evil, Republicans, Salon. Okay, here, Republicans are against the Republicans against their. By the way, what you're saying is stupid, because legal experts also reminded Greene that secession did not work out so well in the past. In case you forgot, the Supreme Court ruled on your idea more than 150 years ago. Hint, they didn't rule in your favor. National Security Attorney Bradley Moss. National Security Attorney Bradley Moss got it wrong and is actively lying and misinforming you. The Supreme Court ruled you could secede in Texas versus White. That's the only court case they had on secession, and they said you could secede with consent. Marjorie said she's not against consent. Never said that. The last time some states decided to separate from the Union, the Civil War made clear for all time that we are indivisible. We are in this together, tweeted former federal prosecutor Renato Marjorie, advocating for the dissolution of the United States as treasonous and un-American. So federal prosecutor Renato Marjorie doesn't understand the law around treason and doesn't understand the law around secession. You have a national security attorney who gets the law wrong and a former federal prosecutor who gets the law wrong. My God. So he got the law wrong. I showed you how it's not treasonous. And I just wanted to point out they are getting, Sonny Hostin was a lawyer. Those were two federal lawyers. Joy Reid's on the show with everybody, says nonsense. All these newspapers are just printing up talking points. And here's the key thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene never said I meant civil war. Never said I meant violence. Never said I didn't mean using the Constitution. Never said I didn't mean consent to the states. And what she and a lot of the national divorce followers like ourselves here at CalX are saying is civil war's coming, and the way to avoid it is a peaceful national divorce. Total opposite of what you're saying. But they have to frame it as, when she says peaceful national divorce, what she secretly means is violent civil war. So, okay, 1 second. Let's show you this. One second. Give me a second here. Okay. So the other comment you're going to hear is the Georgia elections. And here's the talking point. And this is why I know it's a media attack, because the media is not mentioning these facts I'm going to show you. So they're saying, Marjorie, you're calling for secession? How stupid. Your state voted blue as a senator, and they voted for Biden. So you live in a blue state or a purple state. You're not representing your blue constituents. You need to represent a diverse Georgia and a diverse America. Well, first, that's wrong. Marjorie only has to represent her constituents as she sees them, period. Half of Georgia's red. So she is absolutely backing up her constituents. As we've talked about, there are polls showing that secession for Southern Republicans is exceptionally high. Half of Georgia's red. So she is absolutely representing her people. Also, when the media attacks her and says, didn't your state vote blue in the Senate and in the presidential election? Idiot. You're out of touch. You can't recognize your state's turning blue, and this is your plan. Let me show you a couple facts. Now, these facts are not mentioned by anyone in the media, period. Nobody brings this up, and it took us 5 seconds on Google to find. It took us 5 seconds on Google to find. Let me show you now. Georgia, December 6th, runoff for senator. Raphael Warnock won 51.4%. Herschel Walker won 48.6%. So they're saying Georgia's blue because people voted for senator over half by 1.4%. Georgia's blue because Warnock got 1.4% more of the vote over half. And he beat Walker by maybe 3% total. 1.5 to 3% is the margin of error. Nobody's bringing this up. They'll just say, Georgia went blue for the Senate, idiot. Georgia barely went blue, and Georgia is still half, and your margin of blue is in the margin of error. Here's another one they didn't bring up. Presidential election results, Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. Joe Biden didn't even get over half the vote. He beat Donald Trump by 0.2%. 0.2%. So the media is saying, Marjorie, you're an idiot. Your state is blue. You don't represent your diverse state. Okay, Biden won by 0.2% and the other guy won by 1.4%. Nobody who's saying what an idiot you are because your state's blue mentions those statistics at all. I've looked at all the media. Yeah, there's not mentioning the actual facts, which proves it's a hit job. Now, how do we know? Because they're not mentioning these facts. Let me show you. I'm sorry it's a long episode, but there's a lot here. So we've had some conversations with some people. And here's one. No current politician on this train. You reek of DC. Go home, Marge. You're not invited. That's RC123, they call me. Didn't like Marjorie Greene. I don't like this. You go home, Marjorie. So I talked to him. Here's the video where I covered how nothing she said was illegal or treasonous or seditious at all. So I gave him that video. Actually, your criticism and the media's criticism is completely inaccurate and not based upon an understanding of the law. 2 replies. No, I'm a few minutes into your video and I support much of what you're saying. Here was his original statement. No politicians, you suck, Marjorie, go home. You suck, get out of here. Actually, your criticism and the media's criticism is completely inaccurate. Thanks. I started watching your video explaining the law. I'm a few minutes in, and I agree with most of what you're saying. I would simply retort by saying I'm not necessarily making the case for a specific criticism in this particular post. I'm just saying that MTG and any other federal politicians who wish to jump on this train can kick rocks. I'm just saying MTG and any other federal politicians who wish to jump on this train can kick rocks. My response, thank you for being accurate. You are the only person I've seen who's being accurate. If you don't like what Marjorie Taylor Greene said and you want her to kick rocks, fine, totally agree, awesome. But people aren't saying that. They're saying what she said was illegal when there's absolutely no basis for that at all. People in the media and politicians and lawyers are not doing what you're doing and are saying, I disapprove of the statement and I don't like her for saying it. They're lying and saying what she said is illegal. We should all be for fighting misinformation. And guess what? RC123, they call me, loved that comment. So RC123, hey, Marjorie Taylor sucks. Actually, did you see this video? Everything she's saying is not illegal. Okay, well, actually, I saw your video and you're totally right. I would just say I don't like her for saying that. Fine. Say you don't like her for saying that, but that's not what the other people are saying. They're saying what she said is illegal and they're lying, and he totally approved of my comment. Now let's take another one that didn't go that well. This is on the Young Turks, and I comment. And so this is a highlighted reply by the Young Turks. This is what I love. So here's the Young Turks, and they did a highlighted reply. This is Fictitious Nightmares responding to me. She is obviously a traitor along with many of her peers. She hasn't been tried in a court of law. Therefore, you are incorrect in saying nothing she has said or done is treasonous according to the law. Just because someone gets away with breaking the law due to their position or power doesn't make them lawful. She is just as big a traitor as Trump. They don't give a damn about our country, our history, our people. How people support them is beyond my understanding. The only people that would support such horrible people are ignorant, stupid, and uneducated, or just horrible of people who don't give a damn about no one other than themselves, but their own country and its values and progress. And then he goes, here's the dictionary definition of traitorous, dictionary definition of treason, dictionary definition of traitor, dictionary definition of sedition. So let's go to here. This started with fictitious night. How do we let these traitors in our country? It's ridiculous we allow this to happen. And then I responded, because nothing she said is traitorous according to the law. And then I linked to the video we did yesterday where we went over all of this in detail. So let's see the response. How could we let these traitors here? Okay. Well, the reason you can is because she didn't break the law. Nothing she said is traitorous. She's obviously a traitor, along with many peers. See, dictionary definition of traitor: treason, sedition. And then here's my response. I noticed you skipped around all of the legal arguments I carefully laid out in the video and went to dictionary terms of treason and sedition because I already proved you have no legal grounds to stand on. She hasn't broken the law at all with her statements, so she hasn't gotten away with breaking the law. That was the point of the video. I am asking people, what law did she break after I carefully reviewed treason, sedition, insurrection, and rebellion and find she didn't qualify for any of those? Please explain, sir. No response. So I carefully point out to this person who's saying she's treasonous, here's my video explaining how she's not. He watches the video and then says, well, she's obviously a traitor. See, here's dictionary definitions. In which I go, bro, I just pointed out all the legal arguments and you completely evaded those and just said, well, I'm sure she is anyways, and then provided dictionary definitions. Dictionary definitions are not how the law works, period. Black's Law Dictionary came out in the 1800s. They have not argued dictionary definitions of terms since maybe the 1700s. So you're going back 300 years. Sorry. They go off legal definitions. And I proved my point. And when I confronted you with facts, you just got mad and then danced around the issue and said, well, she's a traitor anyway. And then the Young Turks highlighted your reply like it was some sort of brilliant response. So that's the point. We are shadow banned. This is a good analysis. We are telling you the truth. Will it get out there? I don't know, because the mainstream media already has a narrative they're pushing, which is wrong. And we have pointed out to different people, some of whom saw our analysis and goes, well, you're right. And then some people who saw our analysis and goes, well, I don't want to accept it anyways, and I just want to yell and scream. Yeah, but can't you at least acknowledge the arguments? No? Okay. So we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Check us out. And you know, Georgia's still red. It's half red. So she didn't do anything illegal. They are attacking her. This shows a documentation of that. And when the system attacks, that means we're winning. So I just showed you how they're saying, look at this conservative Republican attacked her. Look at Liz Cheney attacked her. Let's print that in every newspaper. And let's have everybody on the same day talk about how she's talking about violence and mean stuff. I mean, the coordination of the news to attack within a 24-hour is definitely directed by an unseen hand. And when they have this much attack on her, it's part 3 in Gandhi's plan. They are worried that her conversation will continue to grow. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be talking about her, or they'd be laughing at her. They tried laughing at her with Morning Joe. It didn't work that morning. The next day, overnight, they realized they were wrong and they needed to upgrade it. So they went from part 2 to part 3, laughing to fighting. And the next one is they win. And how do we know that? Because they just showed they're scared. You're that scared because one sitting Congress member posted a tweet and you guys come undone? The system is not that strong if you're scared about one congressperson posting a tweet. It really isn't. And you know it. And you just revealed yourself. This is the best time for secessionists ever.